It's me, Cwazywabit. Welcome to another episode, SC Control, Star Citizen Control. Hope you're doing well. It's getting closer and closer towards CitizenCon, and I have decided to do a react to a recent Star Citizen video. It's the Star Citizen Live Tech Talk with Ben Wabos-Hijore. It's 3 hours long. They don't do this very often, so there's going to be a whole bunch of information contained within the video, and I've decided that I'm going to split this into 3 parts just to make it a little bit easier to consume. So I haven't watched it. I'll be reacting the same time as you. I may well stop and pause the video, talk about something. I may not. And let's just get on with it.
Let's get it on.
Let's get it on.
Hi, everybody. Just gonna let Benoit do that thing in the background. The show's actually started, Benoit, so this will be the YouTube version. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour, although not in this case, it's going to be a lot longer, out of the end of our week sometimes, and talk to you, the Star Citizen community.
3
we put
hours.
Our developers to the test. We have them answer questions. We have them talk about various aspects of their work. Sometimes we show off really unfortunate plushies that never made it into production. We do all manner of things in this show. On the show this week, we are doing the prophesized sequel to a special edition show that we did back in the beginning of February this year. Now, for those of you who might not remember, or you've joined the project since then, welcome aboard. Back in February this year, after Chris Roberts announced in his letter from the chairman a fundamental change in the manner and focus of our development for this year, Benoit and I took to SCL and spent 2 or 3 hours. I don't remember how long.
About 3. Yeah.
Would have been good to look at that before I came here. To just shoot on everything. Talk about everything under the sun. Figure out what these changes really meant and stuff like this. And we said at the end of that show that we'd be back in roughly about 6 months. So 6 plus 2 is 8. It's 9. Would you expect anything less?
That's right.
So we're back. We're back today. Do a quick recap.
It is true. Add time anytime you get any sort of time constraint with Star Citizen.
All right. First, the Earth cooled. Then the dinosaurs came. Now we're back to talk about a whole variety of topics. This is not your traditional Q&A show where we take questions from the community, although if we see some good questions in the Twitch chat, we might throw them in from time to time. This is our interview format. So we have worked out a series of topics that we want to cover. Based on our previous conversations, we expect this show to go a bit long. So, if you got someplace to go, be sure to check out the YouTube replay later. If you'd rather listen to or read an AI summary or something on Reddit, I mean, I can't stop you. I can't stop you. But yeah, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. We're gonna do what we're gonna do. Let's jump into it. Let me start by introducing our guest, the man who needs no introduction, but we're gonna do it anyway. Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Ben Wabos-Hijore. Benoit, how you doing, man?
It's getting better every time. Your pronunciation, it's always going up. It's great. I feel good.
I got it right too.
I feel good.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, who did we? We just hired, just added somebody to my team, and I've never she's worked for me for about 6-7 weeks now, and I've never once tried to say her last name out loud because I'm afraid.
It's okay. You can do it.
She's not watching the show, so she doesn't know I'm talking about her.
Good.
Benoit, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
Well, I am a developer, and I am the Chief Technology Officer for CIG. That means that I oversee everything technical, so gameplay engineers, engine engineers, graphic engineers, AI engineers, everybody who touches a computer almost, That's basically my job.
And how much of everything that's wrong is your fault?
Well,
Everything.
people on
Everything.
Spectrum would say everything, but yeah, I mean, basically, I empower all the teams to build the game, and so technically, everything kind of is my fault in a way, you know.
Balt's fault.
That's
Balt's
right.
fault. All right. So, like I said, we got a lot to talk about today. Who knows how long it's going to take, because it's not like we have any time to rehearse or hash any of this stuff out ahead of time. So we're just going to jump into it.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. So part one of this show that I'm inventing right now in my head,
Yeah.
I want to call part one the year of playability. So the year of playability is not necessarily a statement that we ever made. We didn't say it in the February show or whatnot.
It's not
But
been too bad for me.
It comes from that
this year.
letter from the chairman that went out at the end of last year with I think it was like 2025, a focus on playability. It's a fair assessment of the mission that we set out for ourselves at the end of last year. Have we during the February show? Remember, guys, we're figuring this out as we go along. It's been a busy week. So during that show, we talked a lot about how Star Citizen had been going in one direction for about 10 years. Since the launch of the PU at the end of 2015 and up until the end of 2024 and whatnot, roughly about 10 years there. We were on one kind of mentality. We were on one. It changed a bit with when 3.0 came out after that big long period where we didn't ship for 8 months and my beard went crazy and whatnot. But we went to this very feature driven. We were on this very feature driven, building the foundation of the game kind of attitude for so many years, where we didn't take a whole lot of opportunities to stop and look at what was out there and spend time on fixing that and hardening that and stuff like that. It was always about, we got to get the next thing out. We got to get the next thing out. We got to get the next thing out, because we have many of the same thoughts our backers do. It's like you got to get this stuff out. We decided that in 2025, because of the impending release of Squadron 42 in 2026, and the need to let those people focus on that and getting that closed out and whatnot, we were going to allow the engineers that their focuses remained on Star Citizen to take a step back from new feature work and look at hardening and fixing and addressing a lot of the longstanding issues. Now, I said a lot. I didn't say every. It's as many as we can within the time. It's a 10-year journey towards one direction doesn't get turned around and fixed in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And we said this at the time. Nonetheless, there's still people who, we see the same comments, guys. We see the same things like, oh, so much for the year of playability. That was literally my brother.
I mean, it's not been too bad, at least for me anyway. I know other people have had issues with the game. The only issue I had this year, funnily enough, was introduction of the update to the anti-cheat thing. I had to find a workaround for that. It kept on saying that I was running some program when I wasn't. So I had to find a workaround for that. But that's been the only issue that I've had this year. I've had a couple of crashes. I know other people have had a lot worse, so maybe I'm one of the outliers on that one. Drop it in the comments. Let me know what your experience has been.
I'm not making fun of anybody else. I'm literally quoting my brother. If you've ever met my little brother, that's exactly how he sounds, because he plays the game. He plays the game, and I get crap for my little brother. It's not just the backers. It's you, Clark. Welcome to the show. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. It's how all little brothers sound, at least in our heads. I just wanted y'all to I want to make sure everybody knows I was making fun of one specific individual that I share genes with.
I also sound like that sometimes when I talk to John Crew. Like, hey, what about my ship?
So let's talk about this year of playability and how it's gone so far. We said we'd check in six months later. We're roughly here. How's this year of playability gone? What have we done? What have we achieved? Where are we at in our process? Are we happy? Benoit, you do the Benoit thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to go a bit further out than just the beginning of the year, right? Because let's take same date last year, Right?
Okay.
So let's go full 1 year back. The state of the game 1 year in the past was still single server DGS, right? So we're talking about maximum 100 players per game shard, one server simulating all of the universe, no second star system, right? So only one star system. Server performance, not good.
4 or 5
right?
frames.
I mean, if you're lucky,
For
right?
lucky. Like when you load it in.
Like the parameters for us to launch a patch was basically 7-ish, which is horrible if you think about it. And so that was last year, right? So we start from far, right?
We
And
were still in the clutches of 30K.
We were
back
still
then,
in the
too.
clutches of 30K, correct? So we did have some level of server recovery, but a lot of issues related to it that could have side effects. Some of them are still present. We'll talk about some of those. And so, fast forward to now, like the assessment is a lot better, I think, in my mind, right? Like,
I mean, for those people that remember it, it was the case at one point last year where it was 30K every half an hour at the very least, if not more frequent than that.
like obviously we've had the release of 4.0. Like it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I'm not saying it's been just a straight line. Like we've taken some dips and then improved the stability and the quality of the game overall. But obviously we have the 4.0 release, which came with static server meshing, which was the element that we needed to free up server performance, right? So on average now, when we look at server perf, I mean, other than some egregious problems which we've identified, we get per territory stats now. So basically, we don't just get like server FPS is X, right? We're gonna know Stanton server FPS is X, or Hurston server FPS is Y, and so we can compare depending on which territory what performance we're getting. And FPS is just one of those parameter, right? There's a lot more. But let's stick to FPS just because it's a simple mental model, right? Because it does have an effect on your gameplay. So nowadays, on average, server FPS is up 20 easily, right? Obviously, some zones, like let's say when we launched, I think Stormageddon, there were some issues affecting those zones that made those servers like dip below that quite a bit, and so they drag the average down. But overall, the game server performance is way, 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 way better. And I think having 600-700, we've pushed up to 800 players per shard, which is something we're pushing at right now. We'll talk about this if we talk about server meshing a bit more. And so we're going to be pushing this really hard moving forward. But I think that if you compare last year to this year, in my mind, it's not the same game. Completely not the same game. Like now, if we look at even the stats from our players, like session length is up like 10x. It's not even comparable.
Yeah.
So that means people play for longer periods of time and they stay online. I think server recovery is a big help for that. Though the stability of the game server is also improved dramatically. And so, this is all because of the efforts of the changes that we've done, not only to the priority calls, like you just explained, right, which is taking, where we're going and trying to slowly shift it to change direction. Because a team like this of this size doesn't switch on a dime. It takes a long time for these changes to trickle in. But
I mean, just sort of giving a little bit of context to that, it was nearly 4 years from announcing how the servers were going to run to actually any sort of implementation.
Now that we've got kind of the big organizational changes in, that we're starting to see and reap the rewards of it, which is I hope is showing in the game. Anyway, it's showing for me, so I'm seeing it. So it's so compare 1 year back to now, I think it's night and day. There's still a long ways to go. I'm not saying we're happy with this. I'm just saying,
there's folks in the chat specifically talking about, okay, well, let's go do Hathor and let's go do this, and you alluded to that there. You're talking about a macro sense throughout the entire persistent universe, every single aspect of the game. It's to call out specific, this specific area is bad and this specific area is bad. That's not what we're talking about. We acknowledge that and stuff, and those are areas that still need improvement. Stuff, as we do this Russian nesting doll kind of conversation and go down. We'll start drilling down to individual aspects later in the show. At its broadest though, overall, the things that would just prevent people from being able to log in, the things that would prevent people from being able to stay in, those larger scale issues that it doesn't matter if you fix the other things. If you're constantly getting a 30K, if you're constantly getting kicked out, if you constantly can't get back in, it doesn't matter if we've improved Hathor performance if you can't get to Hathor. Those bigger things are what we're talking about here, and those have seen some measurable, marked improvements. I mean, an improvement from 4 to 5 FPS to 20 FPS is huge. Nobody even talks about 30K stuff anymore. Server recovery is, I mean, it's hard to make a trailer or anything. We sat there. Back when we thought about how do we make a trailer for server recovery and stuff, and then it's like we did it for 2 reasons. And I'm going to talk a little bit here about why marketing pushes some things and doesn't push some other things. One is there's no real interesting way to show it without, you've all seen the server recovery screen. You're sitting there and doing that, but also I'm just going to be real. We're only 13 minutes into it. Let's get to a real moment of truth here right now. Over the course of the 11 years I've been here, we sometimes toot the horn like we've invented something that honestly should be standard. It should be standard. It's if we were doing things different, if we had different priorities at this point or whatever, that would have just been a thing we would have had before. So we couldn't have server mesh, we couldn't have server recovery before because we had to. It was part of the whole nesting architecture within meshing. So we had to build an infrastructure before you could have a recovery that would bring that stuff back. So the way that we chose to do things meant that some things couldn't come till later. I mean, there's people again. We'll talk a little bit about org stuff and stuff. We still don't have orgs in our game and stuff. Those are things that are foundational that you would find in day one of other MMOs, and we're here 10 years into the PU and we still don't have it. So I want to be real clear that when we talk about this and we celebrate our achievements, and I'm really proud of our achievements this year, the stuff that Ben Watson are real. This year is a night and day difference from last year. I think anybody being real candid and honest with themselves would admit that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I had a load of issues last year, and sure, celebrate the things that you create. I'm totally down with that.
At the same time, I want to be candid and honest and be like, I don't want to pretend like this was we invented the wheel and whatnot. This was the change that Chris set out for us last year. It's, hey, let's slow down, let's refocus, and let's find those things that we lost along the way and catch back up. Does that mean a slowdown on new features? Yeah, it does, and it has all year, as we said it would in February. But just a little reality check for everybody. I want you to talk about how we did it, though. We're going to spend some time. We're going to talk about freight elevators and all that stuff right now. But up here at the top, though, how did we do this change? What were the organizational changes and the operational changes that we did that made this possible and that are going to continue for the foreseeable future?
Well, so there's a series of things like company-wide that have had to change for this to happen. The first one, we talked a little bit about this in January, which was the idea of having hero cards or Joker cards, I call them, on specific issues, right? And so we've and then it was funny because people were like, give the Joker card to this other bug, right? And I was like, yeah, that's basically what we do. But we've extended that concept a bit further. And I hate that we changed the name, but we did change the name, and then we call those hero squads now. So what we've done is that we've taken a subject, for example, transit, right, which we've extensively talked about in January, and we've made a hero squad around it. So that means we've dedicated resources just to all the bugs related to one system, right? And we've changed the methodology. So the way that we used to deal with bug fixes in the past, it's basically engineers get the bug report, they put it in their task list. At some point, they emit the fix and they ship it in a patch. Now, as the patch release comes closer and closer, those bugs get verified and or need to be accelerated. And so it's always a bit of the fixes are valid, they're correct, but we don't have time to test them fully. We've had a lot of regressions, right? And so regression was becoming a problem because we were going too fast to try to solve some issues. And so some systems like transit are complicated enough that you can't just emit a fix.
I want to pause you there. What is regression?
Regression is when I say I fixed bug X and I've created bug Y.
Okay.
So it's basically when we're introducing new bugs or breaking other things because we try a fix. Okay. And so regression was a big problem on the project in general. It was in part because of the speed at which things were going, the code review process, things like this. So these hero squads, basically we flipped a bit the relationship. So we decided that fixing issues, let's say I'm going to keep transit as my hero squad example because it's an easy one to reason, but we've put resources dedicated to it. And then we got the QA teams to basically derive the priorities within the squad. So instead of saying, hey, production management is going to, drive the priorities, we got the QA leads to do that. And so now these guys were completely driven by player impact. And so when they look at issues, they're like, is this impacting players or is it a fringe issue, right? And they decided on the priority. And it turned out that priority accuracy was a lot better. And we asked those teams to be relentless into what they want to reach. And so classify the issues in order. And then the moment we get a green light from these guys, it's a celebration because they are hardcore.
I've seen a lot more Nathaniel Fisher this year than I ever saw.
The Nathaniel Fisher seal of approval is a real thing,
I want to inject. Brunks76 says Ben Wabos wrong. Regression is when old issues resurface.
Yes, that's also a definition that works. But we use the same word for both at CIG. But you're kind of correct. The proper definition is that's an old issue that comes back. But
I mean, they're not going back to what he said. Like, for those people that are not aware, they're not deliberately adding bugs in. Often, as a lot of people that follow the Star Citizen will know, when you change something, some other bug gets created or can get created because that system relied on the thing that you've just fixed. So the old adage is fix one bug, create 20 more.
In this case, the thing is the issues are so close by, and typically it is resurfacing an original issue. That's actually one of the issues with those big systems is that bug reports are so similar, but are sometimes completely different circumstances. But
two things, three things, four things that all cause the same outcome.
Same symptom. Yeah, exactly.
So hero push squads, we got Correct. That. The embedded green light is what you just got done talking about. Letting QA sort of manage their priorities and green light things.
No, that one's a bit of a separate one, actually.
Right.
So the hero squads is really about getting our QA team to drive the priority on a specific subject and drive down, right? One of the change in methodology for the devs on those team is like a bit of a change in approach. We in code review in these hero squads, we no longer just accept the fix based on code change. We ask the developer to explain what the problem is. Can you reason at why this is happening? Second, propose a change, right? And then the leads can validate this change before we start even writing any code for it. And then we verify the change with QA. And then that's when we actually allow the change to come into the stream at all, right? So we do a lot more work before the work is actually started, a lot more work before validation before it actually gets submitted. And so on those teams, like developers working on those hero push squads have a much more methodology to apply to solve that, because basically in the past the regression rate was too high.
Right.
And so the big advantage of that setup is that those teams are faster to react because they're dedicated on one subject. And so if there is a regression, because they still happen, they're faster to pick it up. But then the fixes are slower to put in. But that still has been very effective. So Transit is one of our hero push squads, which to me has been kind of successful since the beginning of the year. Like I think the transit system, we're going to talk a bit more about it later. It's in a much better shape.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible last year. I remember going to Microtech and like transport just coming in almost vertical.
The embedded green light is what you just talked about, which is that was a major organizational change. And so in the past, the way that game devs at CIG on the Star Citizen would work is that they would submit and test later. And now, I know that sounds crazy, but it is what it is. It was what it was. And so at the beginning of the year, we set to completely change this. And so we added this embedded green light process. So what is an embedded? So embeddeds are QA testers that are embedded in a dev team. So it's not, everybody has a view of like there's a floor of QA people, and then they receive a build and they test the build and stuff like that, right? But there's another class of testers that are embedded in teams, and they become specialists in what that team is doing, right? So, if you have an embedded tester in the FPS weapon team, those people know all about FPS weapons, how to test them, what change affect what, and so they can judge what they have to test. So the embedded green light is we gave that team the power to red light any change before it's submitted. And so that's a big culture shift, because it used to be hot and fast, get it in, we'll test and fix later, right? If there's issues, and we trust devs. We don't trust devs. We need to verify. We need to check it, right? And the whole point of this was to hit on regression or side effects, right? Because our rate of regression and side effects was extremely high, right?
I want to I'm just picturing the comments. Somebody can screenshot Ben Wa and say, Ben Wabos-Hijore 2025, we don't trust devs. Go ahead. Right there. Do it right there. Right there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we've had embedded QA for years. This was about empowering them, in order to be a bulwark against letting this stuff through. Another new term I heard this year, and hygiene initiatives. Now, when I heard this was coming up, I thought it was something else. Anybody that's worked in a game studio knows that every once in a while there's that desk you walk by and you're like, I thought I knew what this was about. It wasn't what I thought it was about. Right. What are hygiene initiatives?
So this is not about BO, if that's what you're referring to. But hygiene is a collection of initiatives related to cleaning up errors, logs, and in general, just reports we get from the game engine that can signify errors or not. So if anybody's ever opened a console in Star Citizen, you probably went, whoa, what the hell's going on, right? Because there's tons of messages going through, all kinds of stuff. Well, that's what hygiene is meant to clean up in a way, right? Now, these things will take us a long time to clean up, arguably, but we do have the same problem of signal to noise ratio in other areas. So like when environment artists are working in the editor, they get level warnings, right? Well, there's a ton of those warnings that are either irrelevant, asserts, warnings, right, and errors. And so the issue is, level artist is going to get some warning. He's like, can I do anything about this, right? Oh, there's 50,000 of them. Probably I don't have to worry about this, right? The reality is one of those is actually an issue, right? And so the hygiene initiatives is like a collection of things that we need to change in how we build the game to clean up these things so that the errors are meaningful. We have the same thing on the data core side. So for those who don't know the game data, so all the records we use to configure, the components or all the game data, right, just stored in a database called data core. And there's a ton of errors in data core that are reported, schema violation, things like that they're not fatal errors, but they're still there, and we allow them to be there, and that's historical in the past. And so the hygiene initiative is a means for us to reach zero errors in those areas so that we can then prevent them from even being submitted in the first place. So hygiene is basically pre-submit verification on things and concerted efforts to solve these things so that we can be in a clean house. It's like we want to clean the house, right? So that we can do better.
Somebody in the chat was saying, I missed it, the name. It said errors that should be warnings, warnings that should be infos.
Yeah.
Pretty common.
Bad classifications of things. So we even have now systems put in place in the assert dialogues and that pop up so that you can report a bad error.
You report a bad error?
Literally, now we get reports for bad errors so that devs can go in and fix the wording or change the severity or things like this.
And
right?
The thing you told me is wrong is wrong.
Certain teams, if the pop-up was directly related to them, they couldn't just dismiss it and continue with their work.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So I feel like an AI when I say that now. You're absolutely right. But we changed the way the assert dialogues work. So asserts, for those who don't know, is like when so I'm a programmer and I'm asserting in an area of the code that this value must be set to 1. That means that if the value comes in and it's not 1, then we'll have an error, right? That will show up. That's the assert error. And typically you need to action asserts, right? And so, or something else is going to go wrong. And so historically, the assert dialog was just a global thing. And then we still have those get assigned to dev teams. So they are classified by code owners and by dev team. And so you can know if like it's an audio assert or if it's a, programming assert or whatever, which is great. But we allowed people to ignore those either completely or just skip them, right? And on the other hand, when you're actually testing the game or playing the game, you get these asserts, so you want to ignore them because you're doing something else. You're not in assert fixing mode. And so what we've changed the relationship towards assert inside the company so that now you can ignore errors for any other team but yours. So if you get an assert error, you need to fix it. That's it, right? There's just no, because the thing that we were seeing in the company was like basically teams going like, oh, when are these, I'm going to pick on audio, but sorry, Graham and team, I'm not picking on you guys, it's just random. But like, when are the audio guys going to fix their asserts, right? Whereas the reality is like we all have our own asserts to fix, and so we changed that relationship as well.
Yeah, it's again over years and years you get this mentality. So it's like I just need to do my work, and the game is telling me there's an error, there's an assert for some unrelated thing. Like what I'm working on doesn't have anything to do with that. Doesn't have anything to do with it. So you smash it. You smash. It's just like selecting all cookies because GDRP made the rule that now everybody's got to announce their cookies on your website. Now I just accept all of them. All you've done is you've made me hit a button. We get in this habit of hitting button and people, and this is one of those things like people. We're admitting this here, guys. Talking about where's open development. I'm like, well, we're sitting here saying that too many people got in the habit of clicking the button. It's
we even found some. I'm not going to blame anybody, but we've got analytics inside the company, so we know who's putting asserts off, right? And so we found some shit.
Paul Rendell, I miss you. I'm just kidding. No. That's certainly not fair.
Paul's a good guy.
No, he's a good guy.
He's the one putting the shit in.
I didn't know he was here either. I ran into him today. He gave me a hug. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was on hugging terms with Paul Rendell. That's nice. All right, so we've talked hero push squads. We've talked embedded green light. We've talked these hygiene initiatives that all help the way in which we make the game and make the patch and make our content stuff. We also started an initiative. I want to keep this under organizational stuff, but tell me if I'm wrong. Yep. The stability score things. Talk to me about our internal stability scores and how we've determining them and how we're using them.
Yeah. So stability score is, I don't think we've ever discussed this publicly.
No, I don't think so.
So we have this measure, which is an indication that we use, and the team that actually comes up with this would already tell you it's alchemy, right? Like it's not an exact science, but it does give us a pretty good idea. So we try to establish a stability score for every build, right? We actually auto-calculate it based on the data that we get.
And not patch, every build.
Every build, every build. So like we send a build to PTU, or QA or staging environments or whatever, and we always have a stability score that's calculated over time. And so what the stability score is, without going, I don't want to go into the alchemy of it, but we're trying to figure out basically the stability of the environment. And so if you're connected to a game server and you get disconnected, we're going to count that, right? Now, the reason for your disconnection will be used as part of that. How long the build has been running is also part of that equation, and the concurrency of it is also part of it. And so with this black magic numbers, right, we basically get a score out of it. And the score is one thing. Now we've put labels on this. So we used to use the score internally as just a number, like, oh, it's a 0.0 and it's a 0.08 build, you know, and then at some point I got a bit fed up with that because I'm like, what does that mean? And so the values for this are optimal, excellent, stable, unstable, volatile, crippled, or critically unstable. So that's the range, right? So we go from optimal, which is great, stability score, to critically unstable, right? And all of the thing in between, right? And this is based on, you know, all the stats that we get, and we kind of auto-calculate it. Now, we still have Jeffrey Pease, our internal alchemist, always, you know, playing around with these numbers or adjusting the score, telling us how bad we're doing it. But it is actually pretty accurate in terms of like what the perceived stability will be from a player's perspective. And so if I compare, what was September 11th last year? Was it like 323 or maybe 4 at that point, right? 323 or 4, I forget which one. I would say like the stability score for 323X was probably in the kind of unstable range, right?
Okay.
That would be a normal range for the 3.2X, you know, this kind of
Yeah, it certainly felt like that.
thing, right? So the stability score, server score for 4.30, for example, is between optimal and excellent. And so that means the rate of server crashes and disconnections overall is really good. Now, this score is not just server crashes, right? It's also client crashes or client disconnection, right? So if everybody gets disconnected because one of our cloud routers dies, then the stability score of the build will be terrible, even though the servers are up and they're running real fine, right? So it kind of encompasses everything. We're trying to get one number for all of it.
What was the stability score for a 318?
That was critically unstable. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because actually the server, if you just took the server score for 318, it wasn't that bad, but it's everything before it. That's why it was so critical in the 318 areas. It's because it was really a massive backend, you know, problem at the time. So yeah, let's not talk about that. We're past that now. But
the two things we don't talk about: that damn
Trauma.
holiday live
Trauma.
stream and Alpha 318.
That's right.
At least Alpha 318 had to happen. At least that had to happen in order to get everything that came after it. There was nothing about the holiday live stream that needed to happen. So,
you don't want the makeup? Let's go back with the makeup. Okay. So yeah, so that's the stability score, right? So that's an interesting measure, and I mean that proves that we've kind of really improved the crash rate on game servers, so the server errors that you get. Now, we need to do more on the stability score because with static server meshing, even the stability score is sometimes skewed. We have run into area local crashes that would crash loop a server, right, nonstop. And so that really contributes badly to the overall score of the build, but that's because it's one area. So you know, we're discussing how we can do more territory-based scoring as well, so that we can get a better idea. So basically, what I'm saying is we can't get an actual just single number for all of the stability stuff. There's always some factors that, you know, we've had AMD drivers or NVIDIA drivers issues that affected stability scores in some builds, and so. Yeah.
So how do we use that to determine whether a build goes live? Like, is there this? It's. I see these. I see an aspect. Let's just pull the curtain way back. Why not?
Yeah.
I see the question, is it worse than what's on live now? I see this question come up a lot in internal conversations. When, let's just be real. If we tried to wait for everything to always be optimal, we'd release very few things.
Correct.
That's
the nature of shipping a game that's in development.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here try to hide or pretend otherwise. But so we know that not everything is going to be optimal. But where do we draw that line? How do we draw that line? And is it more than just, is it worse than what's currently on live?
No, we always try to shoot for better than live, right? When we can. But there's a lot of things that we look at to be able to ship a patch, right? Now, obviously, for this year, it was a very big change for the development teams because moving to a 4-week cycle means that we are always shipping. Like, how we have a ship date, right, that we give ourselves and a schedule, and then we've got our gate reviews and everything is like chained up to get there. Well, the closer you get to this date, right, when you get from the player's perspective, when you guys see like daily PTUs go, and it's always update, that's because we're getting close to the release, right? And so we're trying to get to the date and we're trying to validate all the things we need to validate as fast as possible. The focus is really on shipping. So even minor issues become top priority, right? And so it's been really difficult for the teams this year to keep up with this because we finished a patch like, yay, okay, we're late for the gate review. Like literally,
I mean, that's cool. My hope always is that they're not sort of constantly just driving the team. I know they need to do their work and stuff, and from what I hear, they're pretty good at this. But like, it's not unknown for game companies to do like a crunch on their employees, and it just takes its toll after the time. I hope it's more structured for them.
it's going like this. And obviously we balance this across multiple teams, but there are teams that unfortunately are, they're on everything. And so they're always on it.
Yeah, I think it gets lost sometimes. We of the many things we changed this year, we've shipped 8 or 9 patches this year.
Yeah,
it depends on whether you count what happened in April as a patch or not. But we've shipped at least 8 patches this year, and in years past, from the 3.0 era on, it was 4 a year. If we were like some 1 or 2 years, we only hit 3 and whatever. And now we've done 8 in this year. The velocity change has been tremendous. And it's helped, if I may, it's helped expose aspects of this. And when I say this, I mean making all of this. It's helped expose aspects of this that we're pretty good at, and it's helped expose aspects of this that we still struggle with and still need to improve. And just what you were saying just really hit home with that. We're in the process now of discussing adjusting the patch cadence for 2026. It's way too early to give any details on that. Nothing's decided. Yeah. But yes, this has been a pretty relentless pace, and there's a patch coming out in September. There'll be a patch coming out in October. There'll be a patch coming out in November, and then there'll be a patch coming out in December. So it's certainly a year unlike any other.
Now, one of the things we didn't discuss about for this, in order to reach the stabilities, there's also internal stability, right? That comes into play with this.
I'm not familiar with internal stability. I've never had any myself.
Well, so this one is a bit more subjective because we don't specifically have a score for it. But if I go back to last year, right, the way we would develop the game, and I don't want to go too deep in the discussion about source control and streams and all that stuff because that's just a rabbit hole. But in general, when we work, we have a mainstream where we work in, right? In the past, this was a melting pot of everything. So core technology, editor, toolings, audio teams, content teams, gameplay teams, art, everything, right, in one stream, right? And the fallout from that is that you go a bit faster because you're building things, you're improving the tools as you're improving the gameplay, as you're improving everything. But the reality is we also had major internal stability issues, which is, imagine that you're an environment artist, you show up at work, you make your little coffee, you pull the morning build, you're like, all right, I'm ready to work on my ASD mission today. It's going to be super cool. Editor crash, right? And now, oh yeah, the team's already on it. We're fixing it, but you just lost 2 hours. Right?
Yep.
And so we had major issues with this, right? And so when we started the year last year, when we did the show, just after the show, I think we went and finished this new branching strategy where all of the patches this year have come out of the same stream that we call SC patch. And this patch receives almost no technology update.
Yep.
It's basically us saying we can do this content with no new engine tech, no editor update, no tooling update, nothing, right? Now, It's not to say we are not touching the engine. We've fixed bugs, we've improved stability, but we bring these things, embedded green light, full verification, tooling check before they go in. And so it's really about moving all these checks beforehand so that we don't destabilize the content teams who are they're under the gun all the time to produce the stuff that they have to, and we don't want to slow them down. And so that's another reason for why the stability is better. It's because we're also not introducing massively breaking changes in the engine that we then need to debug at patch time, right? And so that's been a big helper on stability at the cost of features, right? That was the whole point of the year, really, so far.
And now
That makes sense. You don't really want to be doing stuff and having it break every 5 minutes, because ultimately going to take longer. So yeah, I'm totally fine with this way of working.
we're changing some of that with tech preview. I want to hit one more thing before we go into a tech preview and stuff. Features are going to begin. Yes, Virginia, it's true. Features are going to begin appearing again in. I won't say the word soon, but they're coming. Before I get to tech preview, because that was a really good transition into tech preview, but I want to touch on one more thing. You mentioned the rise in session length.
Yep.
So this is one of those metrics that we've talked a lot about. We're 40 minutes in. We've mentioned a lot of things that have probably never been said on a single development a show before, or podcast, or whatever the heck you want to call this. We don't often talk about session length. The amount of people who are logging in. You hear about concurrency. Steam has concurrency numbers and stuff, but session length is a super important metric for stability and for enjoyment of the product and stuff like this. Talk to me about session length, how it's determined, other than just, hey, that's how long the person's in there, why it's important, and what's happened to that over the last 9 months.
Well, so, let's say the session length is calculated by you joining a game server.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Spicy SCO7 says 40 minutes in, said virtually nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped the whole show.
Sure.
Stopped the whole show.
Wasn't me.
Continue, Benoit.
I was saying the session length is calculated when you connect a game shard, right? So sitting on the main menu doesn't count, right? It's really when you're actually actively connected to a game server, and obviously it ends when you disconnect. So that sounds like a simple metric, and it kind of is, but it's very important because it gives you an idea of, like, you can have very high concurrency and a very short session length, and that means that's a terrible patch. It means people are going in. Let's talk about the patch we should not talk about. When you would get in game, if you could get in game, and then can't get out of bed, Alt F4, end of session. Super high concurrency, but very low session length. And so the session length is a bit of an indicator of the quality of the game, but also of the desire of the player to keep playing the game. And so the longer the session length, it typically means that, the content's being engaged with, players are playing the game, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm sure, some people go out in deep space and they mine, and that's it. And they can mine for hours and they pull the average up. Other players, go PvP for a couple minutes, and then they exit, and then, they drive the average down. But overall, the session length is it's always a metric that we look at as a secondary metric to look at the quality of this. And so the session length has more than doubled since the 3.x era of the game, easily, right? And obviously, in the case of server recovery, your session continues, and so that helps, quite a bit, because before it would cut the session in half. So there's other factors that contribute to it, but that's why it's an important one.
Okay, so.
Okay, I think that's going to be a good, because he's just going to go on to his next point. So I'm going to cut the video there. That's going to be the end of part 1. Thank you for getting to the end. I really appreciate it. I'd love it if you could give a like, subscribe, all that stuff. I really want to build this channel up to something better, and I've hit like a couple hundred followers at this point. It'd be amazing if I could get up to the point where I can monetize it. So if you'd be kind enough to give a follow, that'd be amazing. In terms of what was said, there's a lot discussed. I think it's I actually agree with the way that things are going. I know there's some people that won't agree with me. Drop it in the comments. Let me know what you think of what they've said. On a side note, got a new t-shirt added to the website. If you want to check it out, the links are going to be in the description. And we'll get on to the next one. This is Cwazywabit. See ya. Big thank you for watching. I've been Cwazywabit. Like, subscribe, and all that other stuff. Also, consider joining the Patreon to help me actually pay my bills. Check out this next video for more of the same content. See ya.